Hey everybody, it's Lavender Town, and today I'm going to be drawing fan art for stuff I'm not a fan of, with the power of my trusty Bulbasaur hat and the names of my least favorite shows written down on some slips of paper. First up is The Big Bang Theory. Now, a lot of people really don't like this show, but a lot of people also really love it. I think it was the most popular show in America for a few years, and it's been on the air for many, many years at this point. And I should say before I get too into this that I don't think any less of you if you like any of the shows I'm going to talk about today. It's really good that people have different tastes and different opinions, so obviously I'm not trying to force the way I feel on anyone, but personally, I just really didn't like this show because I felt like, first of all, I'm not a big fan of laugh track shows. I just find that if a show's legitimately funny, you really don't need a laugh track. And when a joke falls flat and there's a laugh track, it's extremely awkward, I feel like. Another big problem with the show is that even though it has some pretty dynamic characters, it almost always uses them in the most obnoxious possible way, and they build jokes around the weirdness of the nerds and the normalness of Penny, and I just feel like that doesn't lead to a lot of really interesting, funny moments. It just is constantly Sheldon says something socially awkward or really, really smart, and Penny doesn't understand or thinks that he's being weird, and like that's the joke for like the whole first season. Like that's not enough to work with, really, I don't feel like. Admittedly, it's been a long time since I've seen this show, and it's been on the air for I think like 15 or 16 seasons at this point, so maybe the show has improved a lot, but in the episodes that I saw, it just felt like they were running a dynamic into the ground that wasn't that funny to begin with. So one of the ways I feel like the show could have been more fun for me to watch anyway, is if Penny really wanted to understand all this geek culture. Like maybe if the show was set up around a new relationship, maybe they had just gotten together in, you know, some sort of wacky circumstance that brought them into the same world, and she's only realizing the depths of how nerdy her new boyfriend is now that she's moved in, and she's actually trying really hard to understand all of the super geeky stuff that he's into. I feel like that would humanize her and make her seem like a more sort of kind and compelling character, but it would also lead to some funny moments where she's really trying her best to seem like she's in the loop about, you know, Battlestar Galactica or whatever, and she's just like completely blending different sci-fi stuff together or something. I mean, it still kind of sucks because it's like reinforcing this idea that like girls aren't into sci-fi, and I know they tried to back off with that by adding two female characters who are really smart and nerdy, but I feel like the damage was done the moment you set your main cast and put a blonde girl not understanding things as the core of your comedy for many of your episodes. I just feel like, I mean, I don't see the point. I feel like those jokes have been made and done to death in like the 80s, and it just seems out of place in the modern world, you know? And that's true of their geekdom in general. Like I feel like they don't really represent the way that people are nerdy now. It just feels like it's very set in the past, and not in necessarily a very good way. So yeah, in general, just making the characters seem more like human people who actually exist now, and focusing more on the genuine affection they could have with each other despite their differences, rather than just having them eye-rolling at each other every single episode forever. That's what I would do. But obviously, they made like $1 billion on this show, so they're not going to be asking me for any advice. After giving my Bulbasaur hat another hearty shake, I selected the next slip of paper, and it was one I was kind of hoping not to pull. This is the new Sabrina, and I primarily didn't want to pull this one because I'm still on the fence about it. It's not like a show that I like completely loathe, but when I watched the first 2 episodes, I was so disappointed. I was really excited about this new Sabrina show. I knew it was based on a comic, which I hadn't had the chance to read yet, but I had been wanting to, and I knew it was about witchy stuff, which is really, really cool. I obviously knew about the old Sabrina show, and it was so like cute and fun, and I was really ready to see like a sort of darker take on it, that sort of glossy Riverdale sort of look, but once I started watching it, I felt so let down by a variety of things, primarily the the dialogue was the first thing that jumped out at me. There was a level of like exposition and stuff that was so, it made me feel like they thought their audience was really stupid because they had to keep like describing things so clearly, and characters would like repeat back, okay, this is what happened to your parents, right? Remember? And it's like, no one would talk like that to someone who's obviously lived like the death of their parents and all this stuff. It's just, it's the type of thing that really bothers me in fiction. And I know it's hard because you want your audience to understand everything right away, but I really felt like I was just hearing the like plot setup directly out of the mouths of the characters when they're talking to Sabrina, who knows all of this already. It just seemed really annoying. And then on top of that, I was super shocked to find out that like almost all of the witch stuff was based around Christianity, which I feel like is such a weird choice. Like they're literally getting their power from like the devil and Satan and stuff, and I just feel like that's really harmful because obviously like people actually died and they were killed, and they bring this up in Sabrina. Like people were murdered essentially for being accused of devil worship, when a lot of the times either they were just unpopular in their community or they were practicing a religion that was not Christianity. It was a really awful instance of religious persecution in various different countries, and I just feel like it's so tacky to make a show then that's like, oh yeah, like here are the witches and they worship the devil and it's all like a big evil kind of thing. Like I don't know, I liked some of the execution, but I felt a little annoyed and weirded out by the fact that they were like gonna make witches canonically Satan worshippers in their world. And even if Sabrina is like trying to fight against that, it still is a world established in the myth that got people murdered in real life. So it made me feel really sort of bad. But I do love the aesthetic of this show, so I actually had a really easy time doing fan art for it. And I think the actress that plays Sabrina is very, very cute. I like her super dark eyebrows. I wish that it had a stronger start, but I'm going to give it another chance. I'm going to watch more episodes, and hopefully I will be proven wrong about certain things, and maybe it will be rooted a little bit more in like witchcraft, like sort of historically, because that would be really, really cool to see in the modern age. But anyway, here is my fan art of Sabrina floating in the air, looking very spooky, because that's definitely what they want. They want a very spooky story going on, and that I can't hate. That's always fun. Alright, so time to pick the next and final show for this video. And let me know in the comments if you like this style of video. I haven't done anything like it in quite a while. So what I picked next was No Game, No Life. Now that is an anime that was really popular a few years ago, and I actually watched the entire thing. With a lot of these shows like Big Bang Theory and Sabrina, I sort of faltered off after the few first episodes because they were making me so mad. But this one I really wanted to give a chance, even though it kept doing things that made me so uncomfortable, because the art was so interesting. It had a red line art style and tons of super glossy color. It was a really pretty looking show, and I liked the ideas that they were trying to work with, this sort of like fantasy, sort of almost Alice in Wonderland nature, starting from these two siblings who just don't go outside. But as I continued watching it, it became clear to me that they were really only interested in a few different things. They weren't that invested in the themes that they sort of established as their initial starting point of sort of loneliness and feeling like the world is not a meritocracy and that things aren't fair, and so that's why they're sort of completely absorbed in the world of games. But by the end, I mainly just remembered a lot of shots of them sexualizing the 11-year-old character, Shiro, and as well as basically every other female character who had the misfortune of being in this show. And like, I understand that anime has fan service, and like that's just kind of how anime is a lot of the time. But there's a point at which I have to like put my foot down, and that's especially when it comes to Shiro, because not only is she like 11, which is way too young to be doing these fan service shots of her, but that's really what they open the show with. And I feel like it's a problem that she is so young. Like, for her to be 11 and to not be going to school and only playing video games all day, like, because she is so little, it becomes someone else's responsibility that she's doing those things. So rather than a story about a girl who can't connect with society or something like this starts to feel more like abuse, because basically no one's looking after her properly. It is supposed to be her brother's responsibility. Their parents aren't around. And the fact that he's not doing that takes him from a character who is sort of sympathetic because he has so many problems sort of getting himself out into society because he feels, again, like it's not fair, to someone who's like fundamentally like a really bad kind of person. And it sours a lot of the show, which is him feeling, you know, really smart and victorious over all these different challenges he encounters in the other world. It just really, the whole thing is, it's a premise that doesn't work because of being set in reality initially. I also I really don't like that almost all the female characters seem to be there just to be fan service, just to be sexualized. Again, I understand it's anime, but like that's not an excuse to like throw away all of these characters who could have been important to the plot, or, you know, move the plot along. The plot is the last thing that is important to the writers of No Game No Life, and I feel like the fact that it was such a popular anime is really concerning for people who want anime to be taken more seriously, because anyone who doesn't watch a lot of anime, who watches this show and sees how it starts, is going to think really badly about the genre as a whole. If you're a fan of any of these shows, let me know what you like about them down in the comments. I'm not used to doing such a negative video as this one, so it feels a little weird, honestly, but I thought it would be good practice to draw something and try to just use my own passion for art to motivate me rather than genuinely liking the subject matter. I feel like that really prepares you for both art school and the art profession, because sometimes you have to draw stuff that you're not initially excited about, and you gotta find a way to get excited on your own. So that was kind of the whole idea behind this. Thank you so much for watching till the end, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you to all of my patrons, including Bella Story, Blue Boy, Calpompong, Caramel TV, Clockwork Construct, Dionysus Hadjirilis. I'm sorry, I keep mispronouncing your name. Dr. Casket, Elizabeth Album, Hope Chilsum, Imagine Creation, JJJ, Joseph Copel, Carla Tapia, Kirirdid, Liblivlivla, Megan Claire, Midnight Doodles, Micah Dactyl, Nora Cornelison, Okamore, Ollie, Rosie Warlock, Sergeant Pendulum, Tawny and Tug, I don't know. The Artsy Moose, Tyler, your boy is T, and Zoe Stardust.